Want to welcome everybody to the draw for the 151st Belmont. Before we get started with the draw, Director of Communications for the New York Racing Association, Pat McKenna, is going to present this year's winners of the Joe Hirsch Award.
Thanks, Andy. It's my great pleasure to be the first to welcome you to Citi Field for the draw for the 151st Belmont Stakes. It's also my honor to present the 2018 Joe Hirsch Memorial Writing Award, named after the legendary turf rider Joe Hirsch with the Daily Racing Form. 2018's awards in the feature category go to Paul Volponi from the Blood Horse for his feature piece entitled The Long Ride, which investigated the pacing, positioning, and circumstances jockeys must account for to succeed in the mile-and-a-half test of the champion. With that, Paul.
Thanks. For those of you who haven't, got a chance to read what Joe Hirsch has done over his long career, I urge you, take a look at the 1990 racing manual to see Mr. Hirsch's recap of Easy Goer and Sunday Silence coming down the stretch in the Preakness. Mr. Hirsch got it going on so good, he doesn't even have to mention the horses by their names, just their cap colors. So I'm just pleased to have my name mentioned anywhere in the same zip code with that great rider. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Paul. Congratulations. And in the recap category, John White of XBTV won for his Belmont Stakes recap called Triple Crown Perfection, which vividly retold the story of Bob Baffert's 2018 campaign with Justify and Mike Smith, culminating in their victory in the Belmont Stakes to become just the 13th Triple Crown winner in history. We have John DeSantis from XBTV to accept the award on John White's behalf.
Thank you. When John asked me to accept this award, I felt honored. You see, I first met John roughly 40 years ago. At that time, he was working as my high school guidance counselor. Yeah, that's the ticket. He was my high school guidance counselor. It's not entirely accurate. I hate to admit it, but 40 years ago, John White and I shared press boxes in Southern California. I was a wet behind the ears publicity guy, and John worked for Daily Racing Form. Flash forward to about 15 years ago, I recruited John to write a weekly blog for a fledgling online wagering outfit called ExpressBet. He hasn't missed a single deadline yet. Proudly, ExpressBet and XBTV.com are where John's blog, Triple Crown Perfection, appeared. The other day, John explained to me how much this award means to him, particularly because it's named in honor of Joe Hirsch, one of racing's most revered figures. John idolized Joe Hirsch, and when he finally met Joe, Joe wrote his phone number on a piece of paper, ripped it off his pad, handed it to John, and told John, call anytime for anything. John still has that piece of paper. That tells you a lot about John's esteem for Joe Hirsch and about John's devotion to racing. He's sort of a jack of all trades and a master of many. He's a racing historian, Santa Anita morning line maker, a licensed steward, a devoted husband to Tracy Gantz White, who's also a respected racing scribe. In short, John White is all about thoroughbred racing. Classics like the Belmont Stakes bring out the best in beast and man, and it's extra special when a Triple Crown is won. John's piece not only captures magnificently the emotion and spirit of Justify's triumph, but it also accurately recounts the colt's brief but historic journey. On behalf of John White, thank you.
Once again, welcome to the draw for the 151st Belmont Stakes presented by Naira Bets. It's not the 151st presented by Naira Bets. It's obviously a great day of racing as well at Belmont Park with a total of 8 Grade 1s, 10 stake races on the card, a 13-race card. It's a sensational day of racing, and I'm very pleased to present the new president and CEO of the New York Racing Association, Dave O'Rourke.
Thanks, Andy. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Citi Field in the official post-position draw for the 151st Belmont Stakes presented by Naira Bets. The Belmont Stakes is the culmination of 3 tremendous days of competition that kick off on Thursday. Now in its 5th year, the 3-day festival offers 33 races, 18 stakes, of which 8 are Grade 1s, and more than $9.4 million in purses on the line. Belmont Stakes is one of the best days in the sport, and we look forward to seeing you out at beautiful Belmont Park this weekend. Now, let's draw the race.
I've got more people to present. Larry Colmus, our track announcer, and of course the track announcer of the Triple Crown as well, and members of the racing office, since nobody's told me who it is. I thought I saw Andrew Burns, and I think I see everybody from the racing office, so some of them are coming up to help present with Larry.
Thanks, Andy, and they are, in fact, Jory Gorski and Keith Dolishell, who are the assistant racing secretaries for the New York Racing Association, who will be doing the draw with me. We have 10 of them, and a couple, first of all, of equipment changes. Bourbon War is taking blinkers off, and Intrepid Heart blinkers on. So blinkers off, Bourbon War, Intrepid Heart blinkers on, and again, 10 of them in all, and we are just about set. Number 1 is Jovia, not War of Will, Mark, sorry. Number 1, Jovia, has drawn the rail for Michael and Jeff Fazio, trainer Greg Sacco, and jockey Jose Lescano. Jovia, post position 1. Post position number 10 is Tacitus, the far outside post, owned by Juddmonte Farm, trained by Kentucky Derby winning trainer Bill Mott, and ridden by Jose Ortiz, who won the Belmont with Taprit in 2017. Tacitus will be post position number 10. Number 7 is Sir Winston, owned by Tracy Farmer, trained by Mark Casse. Joel Rosario will do the riding, who won the Belmont on Tonalist in 2014. Sir Winston comes out of post position number 7. Number 9 is War of Will, the Preakness winner owned by Gary Barber, trained by Mark Casse, Tyler Gaffalione riding in his first Belmont Stakes. War of Will, who drew the rail in the Derby and the Preakness, will be in post position number 9 in the Belmont. Post position number 4 goes to Tax, owned by R.A. Hill, Reeves Thoroughbred Racing, Hugh Lynch, and Corms Racing Stable, trained by Danny Gargan, with a Rod Ortiz Jr., who won the Belmont on Creator in 2016. Tax has drawn post position number 4. Next is number 6. That is Spinoff, owned by Wertheimer and Frere, trained by Todd Pletcher, a 3-time winner of the Belmont Stakes. And Javier Castellano will be doing the riding on Spinoff from post position number 6. Number 8 is Intrepid Heart, owned by Luana and Robert Lowe, also trained by Todd Pletcher. Two-time winning Belmont Stakes jockey John Velasquez will be riding Intrepid Heart, who will break out of post position number 8. Number 5 is Bourbon War, owned by Bourbon Lane Stable and Lake Star Stable and trained by Mark Hennig. Mike Smith, who has won 3 Belmonts, including the Triple Crown last year on Justify, will be the jockey on Bourbon War, post position number 5. Post position number 2 is Everfast, owned by Calumet Farm, trained by Dale Romans with Luis Saez. Everfast, they're happy with a 2. And last but certainly not least is number 3, Master Fencer, coming in from Japan. Post position number 3 for owner Katsumi Yoshizawa, trainer Koichi Tsunoda, and jockey Julien Leparoux. Master Fencer will be number 3 in the Belmont Stakes. We also have the morning line odds for you from the top down. We'll start with Bourbon War, who again drew post 5. Morning line odds on Bourbon War from our line maker David Aragona, 12-1. Everfast, post position number 2, is also 12-1. Intrepid Heart, who drew post position number 8, 10-1. Jovia, post 1, 30-1. Master Fencer, post number 3, is 8-1. Sir Winston from post 7 is 12-1. Spin-off, post 6, 15-1. Tacitus, post position number 10, is the morning line favorite at odds of 9-5. Tacitus, morning line favorite, 9-5. Tax, post 4, 15-1 on the morning line. And War of Will, the Preakness winner, post position number 9, second choice at 2-1. 2-1 on War of Will. So those are the post positions for the 151st running of the Belmont Stakes and the morning line odds. I'll turn it back to Andy, and we're going to meet some of the participants in this year's race.
We're going to have a similar situation to last year's draw where we brought a number of the connections up, trainers up to talk. But before that, we're going to bring up some of the connections for Master Fencer, the horse coming from Japan who finished so well in the Kentucky Derby. The racing manager, Mitsuki Nomamoto, and the trainer, Koichi Tsunoda. They're going to join us for a couple of questions about Master Fencer. How are you?
How are you?
Master Fencer, in training last week, there was some question of whether or not he was going to be able to run. How is he doing leading up to the race?
ケンタッキーダービー終わった後も、順調にここを目標に来れたので楽しみにしてます。
So even after the Kentucky Derby, he's been really doing great up until now. So I'm really looking forward to see his racing at the Belmont Stakes.
How do you feel about the post number 3?
内枠の方が良かったと思うんで、はい、満足してます。
Actually, we prefer the gates by the rail, so I'm so satisfied with the gate.
Is Master Fencer doing well at Belmont, and are you guys doing well at Belmont?
he's been doing great, and he's so energized all the time.
The Belmont Stakes, of course, 12 furlongs, a quarter mile farther than the Derby. Are you hopeful that the extra distance will be in his favor?
So long distance is better, and also he can fully utilize his ability at the 12 furlongs.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck in the race.
Thank you.
I'd like to bring up 4 trainers, 2 of whom participated last year, one of whom we'll see how long it takes before he says something provocative, and that's, of course, Dale Romans. First, last, and always. Dale Romans has Everfast. Everfast, of course, who finished a second in the Preakness, has a very big price. Trainer Todd Pletcher will also be joining us once again.
Hello.
Todd, who's had an enormous amount of success in the Belmont
Andy,
Stakes.
before we get started.
Yes, Dale. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. I want to challenge you to not ask any of the 4 of us how our horse is doing or what do you think of our post.
Okay. Take that
I'm going
up.
to tell you right now, horses are doing great, and I love Mark and Bill's post.
And really, it doesn't matter what post
Really
you
doesn't
have,
matter,
right?
right.
Sit
Oh,
as
right
far
here,
away from
Bob
Dale
Ray.
as you possibly can. I put you second, so you had a choice.
Todd made a feeble attempt at being mean last year. It didn't work very well.
I thought it was pretty good, actually.
Huh? Try to do better,
Bill
right?
Mott, who, of course, won the Kentucky
You can't be
Derby
mean if
with
you want
Country
to.
House, and has Tacitus, who was installed as the morning line favorite. Very pleased that Bill came down from Saratoga to join us. Bill Mott. And last but not least, Mark Hasse, who is actually represented by 2 horses in here. He has Sir Winston, but of course he has the Preakness winner, War of Will, who's the only horse who will be participating in all 3 Triple Crown races. Guys, we're very pleased to have you. We want to thank everybody for taking the time to come and join us here. And since Dale's forbidden any questions about posts and your horses, I'll give you the question I know you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about the Kentucky Derby a little bit before we get on. You knew it was coming. You can't avoid it. Bill, have you gotten over being embarrassed to have won the Kentucky Derby?
I'm getting used to it now.
You've got a mic. You're talking to your
I'm
mic.
getting used to it. I'm trying.
The situation I've heard I think and some of us have heard each of you talk about the Derby. Is everybody comfortable sort of with the way it worked out in the Derby, the situation, now that everything is sort of blown over? And anyone can feel free to take this. Which usually means you, Dale.
I wasn't in it. But I think that it was handled properly. I think the stewards made the right call. I think there's rules that it doesn't matter if you're the last race at Aqueduct on Wednesday or the Kentucky Derby. You still have to go by the rules, and you have a lot of people betting a lot of money. You have owners that have invested a lot of money, and the rules are you must keep a straight course and not impede another horse. And that's the bottom line. And everyone has great empathy for everyone connected to the winner. No one wanted to see that agony of having to see the number taken down. But the rules are the rules.
And for you, Mark, because War of Will was so much involved in it, was going to the Preakness and winning, obviously it's exciting to win a race like that, but was there also a sort of sense of satisfaction of getting your horse to get a chance to show what he could do?
Yeah, I think the word is satisfaction. I think that's a good word. You know, revenge was mentioned. It wasn't about revenge. It was satisfaction. I think that's a good word. I just wanted him to have a fair chance. That's all I wanted, and I thought he got it, and he responded and did well with it. So, yeah, there was no revenge.
And heading towards the Belmont, I mean, were you always thinking that if things worked out, that War of Will was a horse that could compete in all 3 races?
He's an exceptional horse, and he can handle a lot of things. And you know, for me, when we start the Derby, I'm hoping and planning on running in all 3, and we're fortunate. The Derby racetrack, with all the rain and everything, it was extremely hard on a lot of horses. We were lucky to. Believe me, on Sunday morning, a lot of people said to me, "Oh, are you disappointed?" I was just happy he was still alive, and that we didn't have the biggest catastrophe in horse racing history. So I was fine. I actually felt bad for Bill because I knew Bill was gonna get a lot of trouble and have a lot of questions. I felt terrible for Gary West. I still feel bad for him. I don't know that anybody truly knows how he feels. I mean, here's a guy that's done this forever, and to think you've won the biggest race ever and then have it taken away. And I recently said, and I mean it, right next year I want to win the Kentucky Derby, but if not, I'd like Gary West to win it. I just think he deserves to win it.
I think only Peter Fuller knows how he feels, and he's the late Peter Fuller.
Right. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and
right?
that was
68.
that was a
That
little
was-
different,
right.
yeah, scenario.
It took him till the next day to realize that he
Right.
didn't win the Derby.
Weeks later, they took him down. Todd, your horses, well, one of them, of course, ran the Derby and one did not. But do you feel that you're happy in this Belmont to get a chance to run your horses on a fast track, if nothing else, and at least give him a chance to show what he can do on a fast track?
Yeah, I do. With Spinoff, he actually got a really good trip, and he was not impacted by the incident at the quarter pole at all. He was already unfortunately backing up at that point, but we shipped in late. We got there on Tuesday. Wednesday, I thought he trained pretty well. Thursday, we had a sloppy track, and it was like, I don't think he likes this. So I'm hoping that was the case because the horse has trained to me consistently with some of the horses that we've run in the Belmont over the years that have performed well, and I'm hoping he catches a fast track and gets to prove how good he is or is not.
Well, in an 11-year span, you won 3 Belmonts, and I think you were second 3 times. And a lot of times people will feel like you're running a lot of short-priced horses, but in these cases, I don't think any of them were a short price. So you have a real history of your horses outrunning their odds in the Belmont.
We've been pretty fortunate, to horses to run well, and we've taken a couple of nasty beats too. So it's a race that we really cherish. I mean, it's home for us, and I think one of the advantages is most of our horses have trained the 5 weeks at Belmont after the Derby, and we're in rags to riches case, the Oaks. So I think that helps, and it's a race that we really enjoy.
There wasn't much talk with Intrepid Heart after the Peter Pan of whether or not his stumble at the start affected his final performance. Did you feel it was a contributing factor to which obviously he didn't run badly, but a bit of a disappointment as the favorite?
No, I mean, we were disappointed in the outcome of the race for sure because we felt like going in that he had a big chance to win. One of the things that Johnny Velasquez and I had talked about even after his win at Keeneland was still feel like the horse is very green. He's kind of clocking horses next to him. It's hard to make any equipment change off 2 wins, but the stumble compromised his chances a little bit. I think a little bit of tactical position, but I don't think that's why he finished third. Flattened out a little bit. Johnny came back and said, I really think this horse needs blinkers. He's so worried about what everybody else is doing instead of what he should be doing. So he's had 2 good works with blinkers, and you kind of hate to make an equipment change in a 1.5 mile race, but it seemed like in his works he didn't get too aggressive. He's a little more focused. So I think we need to improve off the Peter Pan. That's why we decided to make the equipment change.
Bill, I think I wonder. A lot of people probably realize that American Pharoah won the Belmont, and won the Breeders' Cup Classic, and maybe some know that AP Indy did it. But the only other horse to ever do it was Drosselmeyer, who won the Belmont, and then the next year won the Breeders' Cup Classic. Do you see the Belmont as an important part in a race that you really want to participate in, partly because you're in New York, but just as a general race?
Well, I think so. I think any of the Triple Crown races are very important, and Belmont is sort of home for us now, and it'd be great to come back and do it again. I mean, it was exciting with Drosselmeyer. He was, a bit of a price, I guess, in the race that day, and it was, pretty good feeling to win it that day. I'd like to do it again if we could.
And doing it with a horse that you trained the dam close hatches as well. That must be kind of neat.
Right. I mean, I really do enjoy training the families. I mean, sometimes it's nice, you get in certain situations where you've trained the dam and the grand dam and occasionally the great grand dam, getting to this point. But it does add a little something special, and it's Tacitus is the first foal out of close hatches, so it would be, it's nice to be around him and fun for that reason.
He seemed to be one of the horses, Tacitus, that did not get the best of trips in the Derby. Looking back on it, do you kind of wish you had I mean, obviously you ended up getting the win in the race, but Tacitus maybe could have finished. He did finish well, but not even better.
He had to alter course several times in the race. He never had to check. He never got stopped. Ate a lot of mud, a lot of dirt. I mean, the track was like pea soup that day, and which was very disappointing. But he was quite a ways back in the field and had to come through a lot of traffic but we offer no big excuses other than he didn't. It wasn't the cleanest trip, but I can't give him a lot of excuses off of that. He was moving very well at the end of the race.
I'll start with Dale in this question, but I'm curious of everybody's position on it. The Belmont being a 12-furlong race, a mile and a half, it's an unusual race. I mean, other than the Brooklyn, which we're also running, I think at 8 o'clock at night is the 13th race. Anybody, you guys, Todd, you're in there, right? Do you feel that the mile and a half distance is one of the reasons that you want to sort of take a shot in it because it's an unusual race and maybe it's a sort of evening factor for long shots to have a better chance?
Well, I mean, it's obvious none of them have done it before, and very few will do it again. So if you got a horse, and I've run in it several times, never won yet. We've been third a bunch, but I've changed the way I've brought them into it every time, and you just don't get a lot of opportunity to train to go a mile and a half. So this year I followed Todd's pattern exactly.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that, or not?
It's just a different race, We used to always see, well, they're running at the end of the Kentucky Derby. They're going to love the Belmont. It doesn't work that way. I think speed is much tougher going a mile and a half. The key to it all, I think, is having a horse that will relax, because the horse that's going to fight you early is going to be tired in the end. And so that's the key. And nobody knows how they're going to do that until you actually run them.
That's what Woody Stevens used to always say, that it was a speed horse race, and that a misnomer would be a lot of horses come running in the Derby and come back in the Belmont, and by the time they get to April, they're all tired. And it's just a grueling, tough race. I think it comes down to the horse's natural ability to get there, and you really don't know if they have it or not until you try them.
So Everfast, your horse improved dramatically in the Preakness. Do you think he's a horse that can take another step forward?
I think so. He's been an odd horse for me. He's like the little engine that could. He never has a problem, never has a bad day, and he's thrown a couple of really big races. But I will say, after the race on Derby Day, he started training a little more arrogant and acting a little more like a good horse. Even though he finished fifth, I thought it was a solid race for him, and that's what made us take him to the Preakness. It seems like his attitude changed, and it's continued coming into the Belmont.
I'll ask one more question of everybody before I let you go. The Belmont Stakes is sort of the end of the Triple Crown season and the end of our first half of the season, kind of. Does everybody just start looking forward to Saratoga in the second half of the year when the Belmont's over? Anybody?
I mean, I think the thing about this business is the day after the Belmont's over, you're on to something else. So it's the end of the Triple Crown series, but it's the beginning of the summer, and the Travers isn't too far away, the Haskell's not too far away, so it's literally just moving on to the next step. But it does seem like kind of the end of that 5-week period, which I'm sure for a guy like Mark that's gone to all 3 events, there's a lot crammed into that.
Absolutely, it's grueling. I was thinking, as soon as this is over, it's going to be a little peaceful for a little while. I mean, peace. We don't get a lot of peace, so you have to divide peace. But 5 weeks of different cities and lots of questions, lots of interviews. I'm not complaining, because this is why we all do this. This is why we did this game, why we started it, and I know we're all proud to be here.
Well, we're pleased to have you, and we thank you a great deal for joining us.
I still have one question for Todd.
Okay.
How much did Dodge pay you for that national commercial?
Can't tell you.
That was pretty impressive. I'm laying in bed and I watch
Dale
TV.
will do it for $10 less. So
right.
definitely
I want Dodge to know I am cheaper. But is that the first
we
national?
knew that.
Last national commercial for a trainers, Leroy Jolly Miller Lite, right?
That's
Miller
right, yeah.
tastes great, less filling.
You would do Miller Lite. Well, maybe not light, but Miller.
I'm Woodford Reserve all the way.
Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate
Thank
you
you.
joining us. That concludes the draw for the 151st Belmont. We appreciate everybody joining us and everybody participating. We certainly hope that you'll come out and join us on Saturday. It's going to be great weather. In fact, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 3 great days of racing. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you this weekend.